is higher and more terrible than all the mountains which I have seen.
Yea, by your majesty, my lord the king, neither we nor our fathers have been able to march one step in it, and men do not ascend it either on that side or on this, for it is the boundary which God has set between us and the nations within it.
Who are the nations within this mountain upon which we are looking?
They are the Huns,
Who are their kings?
Gog and Magog.
Have they come forth to spoil in your days?
May God establish thy kingdom and thy crown, my lord the king. These fortresses which have been overturned in our lands and in the lands of the Romans, have been overthrown by them. By them have these towers been uprooted. When they go forth to spoil, they ravage the land of the Romans and of the Persians, and then they enter their own territory.
Quran says the same information without the details of the story. 7. Build a barrier. After speaking with the people about Gog and Magog, Alexander says he will build a barrier, such as a wall or a dam, between the people and the tribes that harass them. The king said,
Do ye desire that we should do something wonderful in this land?
They said to him,
As thy majesty commands, we will do.
Let us make a gate of brass and close up this breach.
Both the Quran and the Syriac legend record Alexander proclaiming the same message in a speech. 8. Made of iron and brass. Another similarity between the two stories is that the wall will be made of both iron and brass. And Alexander commanded and fetched 3,000 smiths, workers in iron, and 3,000 men, workers in brass, and they put down brass and iron, and kneaded it as a man kneads when he works clay. Then they brought it and made a gate, the length of which was 12 cubits and its breadth 8 cubits. And he made a lower threshold from mountain to mountain, the length of which was 12 cubits. Here the Quranic translators use different words for the second metal: lead, Yusuf Ali, copper, picthol, brass, shakir, but the connection with the Syriac legend is apparent. 9. Cannot be breached. After constructing the barrier, the Syriac legend says that it is very difficult to penetrate and the Huns will not be able to dig under it. He fixed the gate and the bolts, and he placed nails of iron and beat them down one by the other, so that if the Huns came and dug out the rock which was under the threshold of iron, even if footmen were able to pass through, a horse with its rider would be unable to pass, so long as the gate that was hammered down with bolts stood. A similar phrase is used in the Quran to convey that the barrier is very difficult to pass. 10. Destroyed at the end of times. The Syriac legend ends the story with a prophetic prediction of the wall being destroyed and the tribes of Gog and Magog surging and destroying everything in their path. This event will occur when the nations have been gathered together at the end of times. And the Lord will gather together the kings and their hosts which are within this mountain, and they shall all be assembled at his beck, and shall come with their spears and swords, and shall stand behind the gate, and shall look up to the heavens, and shall call upon the name of the Lord, saying,
O Lord, open to us this gate.
And the Lord shall send his sign from heaven, and a voice shall call on this gate, and it shall be destroyed and fall at the beck of the Lord, and it shall not be opened by the key which I have made for it. And a troop shall go through this gate which I have made, and a full span shall be worn away from the lower threshold, by the hoofs of the horses which with their riders shall go forth to destroy the land by the command of the Lord. The Quran also ends the story with a similar prophecy. Van Bladel in his essay titled The Alexander Legend in the Quran, Surah Al-Kahf, verse 83 to 102, sums up the relation between the Quran and the Syriac legend. Thus, quite strikingly, almost every element of this short Quranic tale finds a more explicit and detailed counterpart in the Syriac Alexander legend. In both texts the related events are given in precisely the same order. As it is, the correspondences shown earlier are still so exact that it is obvious in comparison that the two texts are at least connected very closely. They relate the same story in precisely the same order of events using many of the same particular details. The Syriac legend was published in the early 6th CE and based on the Alexander romance by Pseudo-Callisthenes that was written in 334 BC. Quran was written and compiled in the late 7th CE. This proves beyond any doubt that the Syriac legend is a direct source for the Tul Qarnayn story. In Quran, Surah Yusuf, verse 2, and Surah Ar-Ra'd, verse 37, also Surah Fussilat, verse 41, Allah said that He Himself wrote the Quran in heaven. But that claim is incorrect since Surah Al-Kahf, verses 83 to 102 was clearly based on an ancient manuscript, written by Callisthenes, a pagan writer who did not recognize Allah or Islam. Another problem is that Alexander the Great was not a Muslim. He was a pagan king who believed that he was the son of Zeus Ammon, which was a combination between Zeus, the king of the Greek gods, and Ammon, the king of the Egyptian gods. Because of this reason, most modern Muslim scholars reject the idea that Tul Qarnayn is Alexander the Great. The most prominent alternative theory is that Tul Qarnayn was Cyrus the Great of Persia. Supporters of the Cyrus theory claim he followed Zoroastrianism, which they also claim is monotheistic. However, the Encyclopedia Iranica in its online article on Cyrus, in a section on his religious policies, notes the following. In a temple in Uruk he called himself caretaker of the temples of Asagila and Ezida, respectively the sanctuaries of Marduk in Babylon and Nabu in Borsippa. On the Cyrus cylinder he claimed that the god Marduk had ordered him to become ruler of the whole world and to treat the Babylonians with justice. The translation of the Cyrus cylinder of the British Museum shows that King Cyrus worshipped Marduk, who was a pagan god from ancient Mesopotamia and patron deity of the city of Babylon. King Cyrus was not known to have two horns. There was no story about King Cyrus went to the place of rising sun, or had anything to do with Gog and Magog, or ever built metal wall between mountains. When we compare this to the legendary version of Alexander, we have complete evidence that the legendary Alexander is the person identified as Tul Qarnayn in the Quran and not Cyrus. The story of Tul Qarnayn in the Quran is taken from the Syriac version of Alexander romance. This causes some theological consequences that are difficult to explain. For instance, who exactly is Tul Qarnayn if he isn't Alexander the Great or King Cyrus? Where is the fetid sea that he visited to see the sunrise? Where is the giant metal wall that he built? Where are the people of Gog and Magog nowadays? It may be easier to answer all of these questions if one understands that the story is just a myth of ancient society, just like what the Quraysh said in Quran, Surah Al-An'am, verse 25.
This is nothing else than fables of the ancient people.